Hi, guys, and welcome to the Camille Davis Show. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for engaging with me. Please continue to like, share, and subscribe. So, yeah, welcome to another episode. Thanks for being here. All right, so I know you guys like to see me and talk to me so long. Uh, no? Yes? Yeah, you do. But guess what? You're not always going to be just talking with me or seeing me here. I will be having a few guests here and there, so you can look forward to that. I'm not going to tell you who, or tell you what. You tell me who you would like to see me have on my show. But I do have a few guests lined up for you, and trust me, you don't want to miss it. All right, so let's get into today's show. Today, we will be talking about motherhood. Yeah. The big M, motherhood and how it changes you. So it's a beautiful topic for me. It's an emotional topic for me. Yeah, motherhood. Camille Davis is a mommy. All right, so I don't know if you know, but I have two children. I have a boy and a girl. My first was the girl. Her name is Alexis. And let me just say, motherhood does change you. It changes you mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. And I had my daughter in 2012. And, wow. Yeah. I remember when I was pregnant and it started to become real to me, like, okay, you're having a child. And, I was feeling all the emotions, nerves, fear, how how am I going to do this? I'm going to be responsible for a whole human. It was also, I'm trying my best not to be emotional. I'm trying my best not to be emotional. It was also during that time when my grandma's leg was amputated. And so it was a very, very rough pregnancy in the latter part. She had all plans to come and, stay with me, help me to take care of my daughter, and that didn't happen. I remember though, and I remember seeking God more than ever. More than ever, I felt overwhelmed. Because when you're pregnant, you're already emotional. Your hormones are going haywire. That in itself is what it is. You're emotional. You just, sometimes you're up, sometimes you're down. Sometimes you want to ball, sometimes you want to laugh, sometimes you just want to stay by yourself. Added with what was happening with my grandma, I God alone bring me through that period. Let's just say that. And so I remember having to deal with the reality of, what was happening and not being able physically, because I was in Kingston, she was in the country, in Ketto still, but being treated at the Cornwall Regional in Mobay. And so I wasn't able, because it was the latter part of my pregnancy. And you can't really do the long traveling because it's dangerous too, and you're too big. you can't you can't be doing that. It's just not, baby can come at any time. Them say, well, it can come, baby can come really from your 7 months. You have to be careful. And so I remember visiting her once when I was pregnant. And at the time, her foot was already amputated, I remember. Because I think they cut like 3 different times, which was, I don't even want to get into that. It's like they cut and they were like, oh, we have to cut more. And so when I visited her, it already happened. It happened once. And I remember how hard that was to see. Just one, not being able to be there with her, and still having to be strong because I was carrying a child. It was a strength I had to develop that I didn't know was possible. And just, trying to be happy when I saw her, and not show her what was really happening with me and how what was happening to her affected me. And again, trying to be strong because I'm pregnant. Us women are, I don't think they give us enough credit. We are so, like, we're superhumans. But I remember seeking God, just seeking God. I remember I was watching a lot of, Joel Osteen and TD Jakes. To this day, I tell my daughter, like, I remember when even, and I don't want to go forward before I too quickly, but fast forward for a second. I remember when she was born, and the first time she heard TD Jakes on the TV, she stopped doing what she was doing, and you saw her move the head. Like, I know that voice because I would always listen to him, and I needed the strength, and I couldn't get that from grandma that at that time because she was going through what she was going through, and I wouldn't, let her know how vulnerable I was at the time emotionally. Let's just say, I went through the rounds and I had my daughter, and everything changed. Motherhood changes everything. For me, I was like, okay, there's someone else in this world. There's this little tiny baby that I'm responsible for emotionally, physically. It's overwhelming. And this is another topic that I won't even touch because it's so big. But like postpartum, like it could go anyway. You don't know if, and sometimes it's easier to control, sometimes not. But, I just remember kind of being still and like, okay, this is something. I'm a mom. And granted, you may or may not know, but I didn't grow up with my mom. And so I didn't really have a template to follow. Like, okay, This is what loving your child feels like. Um, and so I really just had to do it on my own without having that. And that was hard. It was hard, but I also told myself, because I didn't know what that felt like, to have the love from my mom. I told myself that I know what I wanted to feel as a child. And I told myself that I would give that to my child when I did have one. And so for me, it was just that. I had to pour into her the love, the attention, the care that I knew that I wanted. And I made a promise to myself that that's what I was going to do every day, you know? And so that was the journey. The journey began. Um, it was rough because I also became a single mom early out. And that was something I was not prepared for, you know? Um, and I also didn't want, because I didn't have my father growing up. So you have to understand, I didn't have my mom growing up, and I didn't have my father growing up. And I told myself that when I did have a child, that I never wanted that, but it was happening. How do you deal with that? Mm. So I had to be mom and dad for her. Um, Listen, and that's why I understand, and I thank God I'm not a single mom now, but I empathize with single mom. I have a very soft spot in my heart for single moms. And, I remember even working with a company, and, I was doing some giveaways at the time. And I said to myself, at the time I was a single mom, and I said to myself, I want to give back to them because I know it's not easy financially, mentally, emotionally. It drains you, takes everything from you. And just being able to do that and being obedient to that's another story. But that's how I ended up meeting my now partner. But I don't even want to, I'm not going to go into that. But just being obedient at the time, just knowing that means so much to me, giving back to them, because I understand the struggle. I understand what it takes. And so I applaud every single mother out there. I was you. Listen, I know what it feels like. I know how hard it is, how emotional it is, how much of a struggle it is daily. And, I think I really need to, I probably need to start something where single mothers are concerned, because it's so dear to my heart. Right. So emotionally, it took a toll on me, but I enjoyed seeing my little girl grow up. You know, I gave her, I remember when I started traveling again on tour as an actress. And first time I had to leave her to go on tour. And I remember usually I would just shop for Camille. And I remember going into the store, into the malls, and I started to just I was just in the children's section, I was in the baby section. And I had not even one thought of getting a piece of clothes for Camille. It was just about her clothes, whatever it is that I knew she needed at the time. That was priority. No. So motherhood changes your priority or your priorities. It's no longer about you. It was not about me anymore. My life was about someone else. So I had to take a back seat. And I needed that. I think sometimes, we become so consumed with just us and not really getting a chance to share what God has given us, and to see that life really is not about self, me. No, it's not. And that began to open up my eyes just into to loving outside of Camille, loving my heart began to expand. I didn't know I was capable of loving. Can I share something with you? I hated Mother's Day. I didn't like it. Growing up, I didn't like it because I didn't have I had nothing to celebrate. And when I had my daughter, it was the first time I could genuinely say Happy Mother's Day. So I don't know why I'm so emotional. I didn't plan to be here, but yeah, I can now embrace Mother's Day and look forward to it. Physically, when I had my daughter, listen. So I was obviously younger. And so after I had my daughter, I remember I went back on stage 7 months post baby. I was skinnier than I was pre baby. Okay. When I say snapback, I mean social media. I don't think Instagram was maybe Instagram had just started, but it wasn't really there yet, and we really weren't going into it that much and that hard. But when you talk about snapback, I snapped. Okay. So I was fine. But moving on to my second child. Ooh, child. It has been harder. It has been more of a challenge, I must admit. I have not been able to get back to Camille, how I know her. And without making excuses, I'm older. I know I'm older, and I just haven't had the discipline, which I find is very important, where food is concerned, and it's just been harder. But hopefully, you can see the changes as they come on this journey with me. But that has been a challenge physically, getting myself back in shape. Spiritually, I have, evolved into, I appreciate and love God more because of what He has done. Bringing a child into this world and the whole process in itself is just mind blowing. And so I completely see God in a different light. So spiritually, I'm at just a beautiful place in my life, and it has changed me and made my spiritual life better. Mentally, I find that I'm a stronger person. It makes you stronger because you understand that it's not just you're living for somebody else. So you have to put yourself on the bench. If you're going through something, you just have to, like, if you want to cry, you, you're not going to do it in front of them. You're not going to do it in the moment. If they're there, you're going to wait. You're going to do what you need. Put on your big girl panties and do what you need to do. So I find that I'm mentally stronger. And it's beautiful because it prepares you as a mom and just overall for life and the world. And so I find that the overall experience of motherhood, it really, like, it's like an evolution. You evolve into what I think is just a higher self. You think differently. You make choices differently because what personally I think about how this will affect my child. Like, I don't do, even before I had my daughter or had my kids, I wouldn't take on certain roles, but now it's like double. I'm just not doing certain things because I know that they're watching, and I want them to be proud, and I want them to, be happy to say, that's my mommy. And I love the journey of motherhood, and I'm grateful that I do get the opportunity to be a mom. And, different people, some people do, some people don't, but there are people who mother others without, being your physical child. But it's just a beautiful experience. And I want to know, how has motherhood changed you? Has it changed you physically? Has it changed you emotionally? What has been your journey and your experience with being a mom? Thank you so much for joining me today, for listening to my journey. I hope something helped you, something that I said. Maybe you've had similar journeys. You can let me know, similar experiences. But thank you so much for joining. Please comment, let me know how it has changed you, how motherhood has changed you. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. And I will see you on another episode of the Camille Davis Show. Bye-bye.